I want to talk a little bit about something very difficult. And that's that barrier that seemingly exists between you and other people. That almost impermeable barrier. Where you try to communicate, you try to express yourself in some capacity, and it failed throughout the years, throughout your childhood, throughout your teens, and even more into your 20s and so on. And that boundary that had you forsake social interaction and communication of a variety of types. That barrier that makes life difficult on a consistent basis when it requires you to communicate with the external, with the other people. And the barrier looks and is shaped in different ways, but oftentimes it's something that you desperately claw against and resign yourself to failure over and over, only in your desperation to try once more, to have disappointment set in for the umpteenth time. Now, for some of you, it might be with friends or family members, where you attempt to explain what it is that you're experiencing, your thoughts on certain matters, what it is that you value, what it is you prioritize, the things and the concerns you have, the things that drive your sense of empathy, the things that drive your sense of frustration, sadness, loneliness, a variety of normal human emotions that are fueled and shaped by what would be not considered normal human motivators and rewards. But it is what it is. And you try so much to explain these things to people, only to fall on deaf ears. They either look at you like you're making little to no sense, perhaps you're crazy. Other times they look at you with pity, thinking, this person must be ill, this person must be doing something or another to themselves that's causing them too much stress. And so thus they become erratic, irrational in their beliefs, in their perceived experiences. But if you're schizoid like me, you have a strong differentiation between what's internal and what's external, because you're reminded of it all the time, every day, when you wake up, when you go to sleep, when you interact, especially. You're reminded of that barrier, and you're reminded of the reality of your situation, which is they can't hear me, and I can't hear them. And I'm trying to hear them, and I'm trying to listen, but no one's trying to listen to me. So why should I keep trying? What purpose does it serve? What is this futile endeavor? That is the feeling. That is a difficulty. And it goes on and on and on and on like this for years at a time, till eventually you get to a point where you decide, no more. I am not going to communicate any longer with this world. It has nothing to offer me, nor does it want to compromise in any capacity with what I am perceiving, what I am living. It is constantly telling me that I am at odds with what is reality, when reality itself is very apparent to me. And that is that I cannot join it, oftentimes, in the way you wish for me to join it. I cannot perceive it in the way that you wish for me to perceive it. I cannot think of my existence the way you think of yours. Now, for those of you that have gone further and saw therapists or psychologists and such, even in the comfort of a room that is supposed to be designed for you to be understood and listened to, able to express yourself freely, so that perhaps, oh God, please, please, perhaps, somebody will finally understand what it is you're trying to say. Family couldn't understand. Friends couldn't understand. Friends. Hard to make friends when that boundary exists. No one understood, so finally this professional, maybe they will understand. That this is just what I see, this is just what I experience. I can see your world, I just don't understand why you place value, why you prioritize these things that I find to be strange, illogical, irrational, unreasonable, whatever words you want to use for it, doesn't matter. It is not some kind of magical thinking that's occurring here. It's well thought out, thinking that is being placed against a backdrop of a world that is telling you no, that thinking is not the right thinking. That is harmful thinking. That is problematic thinking. And then oftentimes you ask, okay, I can understand myself, some kind of negativistic or very pessimistic thinking that you generalize in. It could cause all sorts of harm and could potentially be toxic to yourself and others. Yes, I won't deny that. But other aspects of your thinking, such as what makes you feel good, what makes you feel calm, what the things you need to feel any kind of fulfilled, idiosyncratic, as it's often called, or not, that is who you are. And to be constantly told that those very things that you have attached your emotions to are the incorrect things to do that with, are the incorrect emotions to have regarding that. Well, that's going to do some damage. And that's going to cause some harm to your ability to build a sense of self. When your sense of self, as it's building, you are being told to take apart, to dismantle, as it is being inappropriately built to their standards. Now, I can't blame them, really. When you grow up or you exist in a world that your cognitive experience is alike those around you, reality checking and things of that nature will become like almost an echo chamber for the neurotypical person. Because that is all that's available. In general, that's all they'll come across. And if they come across any aberrations, any divergences in the reality experience, social realities more to be apt, to be more apt, they will dismiss, rebuff, or merely never see or acknowledge. Sometimes, and oftentimes, not even intentionally or actively ignore. But it just seems to be an almost natural state to not perceive such things or ever have a need to. And so thus, you are left screaming into the void, into the nothing. Oftentimes, schizoids say, I can feel the void take me. I can sense the void. There's always this emptiness, this void inside. and outside, this void sucking everything into it. That void that is often described, I think, is merely symbolic of this vacuum of reality and cognitive-based assumptions that most of society and individuals have for people like myself and others. They must be crazy. They need help. Which leads a lot of our people, well, a lot of people like us, to believe we are broken. We are damaged things. We are tattered dolls thrown to the wind. When we are not. We are merely made of different materials and built for different things. But that seems too difficult a concept to grasp for most people, including the psychological community. Now, luckily, some strides have been made in other types of neurodivergent groups, but they have yet to be made for the one I partake in. All forms of what is termed idiosyncratic thinking, or autistic thinking sometimes, are merely what's the word I'm looking for? A culmination, a culmination of a variety of factors in that person's childhood that somehow created these aberrant forms of thinking. Conflating the adaptation with merely the experience of what life is like to be schizoid, or many of the type of thinking that is often described within Cluster A. If this separation is never made, or understood in any capacity, or researched, this boundary will always exist, regardless of the amount of therapy and the amount of effort that is placed upon the research or otherwise, the psychological community, or the family and friends that are attempting to help their schizoid colleagues, or whatever you want to call them, peers, I don't know. Depending on the context, really. So this is a discussion that needs to be had. What is happening here? What is creating this boundary that is often described by schizoids? Is it merely a withdrawing of the self due to the level of neglect and abuse or isolation the person endured as a child? This odd thinking, this eccentric thinking, these elaborate inner worlds and those things associated to it, this priority on the abstract, the conceptual? Are they merely an escape, as is often described, from the external world, which is reality? Is it merely an escape from wanting to partake in what is good for them, what is healthy for them, what is required of them? Are they merely avoiding those things because they do not wish to face the discomfort, the lack of safety that comes with social interaction, and all the seemingly arbitrary rules that come with that? Rules that most definitely make sense why they exist when your motivations and your inclinations and your ambition is set forward by specific types of rewards, specific types of Influencers. When those things do not apply, when those things do not connect, when they are not applicable, you should not question the person who they are not applicable to. About why they are wrong or it not being applicable to them, what they should fix to make it applicable. The question that should be asked is, what applies to you? What do you need? What do you see? Why do you feel you see it? That is what needs to be asked. Not what is wrong with what you see. What is incongruent with what is understood to be a functional life and what is understood to be acceptable parameters for what life is supposed to be experienced as and what things are supposed to be cherished and motivate you. It is a far different thing. It is a far different question that needs to be asked.